Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 3 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Today, I am chatting with narrator Meg Price. Welcome to the podcast, Meg. How are you doing today?
I am so good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a lovely rainy day, but it's all sunshine. I'm talking to you, so I'm excited.
Well, thank you very much. I wish I could give you some of my sunshine. It's 80 and sunny here today, where I am anyway.
It was about 90 and sunny just about 10 minutes ago.
Well, there you go. There you go. So you just need to wait another 10 minutes and it'll be 90 and sunny again for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or here in Florida, we just goes 5 miles that way. So it happens. Gotta love Florida. But we're here to talk about you and get to know you better. So why don't we start with telling us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been narrating and how you got started?
Sure. So I guess it's a story that I tell all the time, and I hope people aren't tired of it. But I come from an acting background and a recording background. My parents are both in the recording industry, just not the audiobook industry. And they've been doing that for 30, almost 40 years now. They have a company together outside of their home. And my fondest memories as a kid are sitting in the booth with my mom as she's recording, press 1 for blah, blah, blah over and over again. And then as I got older and older, I went to a specialized high school for theater. And then I went to college for theater for 2 years and then dropped out because I just didn't feel like it was right for me at that time in my life. And I was reevaluating theater and acting and all of that. And then lost my way a little bit in my early 20s, as one does. And then I was at a job that I absolutely hated and needed to distract myself. So I started listening to audiobooks. And then it just kind of clicked. I was like, why am I not doing this? Because I come from the recording background. I come from the acting background. I was like, why didn't I make this connection earlier? And then I just started figuring out how to do it. I used all of my parents' knowledge that I could. So I had a wonderful leg up there and then kind of sort of started. So I've been doing it for 4.5 years now, and I just hit my 100 book mark. And I am so happy and blessed and grateful to be in this business. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness. I can imagine you sitting on the lap of your mom and going, +3 now.
Exactly. That's exactly what we did. I just, they were home all the time. So I was like, I want to help. And so I would sit there and watch her do all of that. I mean, it's the most boring work in the entire world. That's why I was like, I will never do that. But I found audiobooks and I was like, wait a minute, that's something that I can do. So yeah. I love it.
Don't you wish that they would have told us when we were like in high school, hey, you can read books for a living, just take a little bit of acting classes, maybe some vocal coaching, and you too can do this. I was like, damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's just so many, there's so many options. It's like, why in all of the theater and acting classes that I took, I mean, I started taking theater camps when I was like 8 years old. Like, why was it never mentioned that this was an option? I don't know. I don't know why it wasn't, but I'm glad I found my way here now. So
kind of makes me wonder if like back in the 20s when there used to be those radio, shows, right? How that conversation was like, how did you get into that? Obviously there wasn't a whole lot of film going. Right. So you were doing theater and radio, but, still
those
translated.
Radio plays. Oh gosh, I love listening to those.
Yeah. I grew up, if instead of in English, though, mines were like an AM, FM kind of a thing, because my dad would listen to them in Spanish. So those were, so I knew, but I, again, never thought to put 2 and 2 together, that could be something that would be a career option for, outside of, I don't know, maybe famous people.
Right. So, yeah. Outside of like, only famous people do that, or, only certain people are able to get into those kinds of things. And I mean, even 10 years ago in this industry, it might have been the case. It was a lot harder to break in back then than it is now, which I guess I'm very happy that I broke in when I did. Because coaches that I've had and talked to, like how they had to, know the right people and be in the right place to be able to, you had to be in LA or New York to be near a studio. There wasn't the ability to do this at home like we have now, which
It's just shocking when I've spoken to some of the ones that are the golden voices and been in the industry for years, and they're like, yeah, I went in and it was into the Audible Studios, and it used to be another name, and I'm going, that's right, stuff like this used to be have to do in actual studios.
Right. They used to have to pay people to travel and room and board and all of that, and yeah,
kind of like how you see on TV where they would have been like, no, do that again. And it's spicier tone this time. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I remember talking to one of my coaches, and she was talking about being in the studio, and she was working with a new sound engineer who was not prepped that it was going to be a spicy book. And she looks out and this guy's face is just beet red because she's just, she's reading through what she has to read, and it's a real spicy scene.
Oh, that sounds familiar. He's a
spicy book virgin. So
was that Lola King?
No.
Okay, so a lot of them have a similar story then.
I'm sure they probably do. I'm sure they do, because these sound engineers, they don't know what they're like, yeah, I can edit an audiobook. Yeah. And then they go in and they're like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. And that's, part of the conversation too about, now that you've been doing this for a while, the whole blushing thing, but that's when they share it, they always start laughing. I'm like, what story do you got? And that's when they share about the engineer who they sometimes will look and say the line to them.
Yep.
Boosh, red.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, y'all are mean and I love it.
Well, I mean, it's that way with anyone. If I tell anyone that I'm an audiobook narrator, the first question, inevitably, oh, do you do those kinds of books? And it's some variation of that. Like, do you do spicy books? Do you do the naughty books? Do you do any sort of, and it's just so blasé for me now. I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, what brand would you like? We've got aliens, we've got monsters, we've got billionaires. Like, what do you want? And they don't know how to answer the question, because I don't know if they just assume that I'm going to get embarrassed about it. And it's like, this is my job and I love my job. And if it's recording a really naughty scene, then that's what I'm doing for the afternoon. I don't know.
Yeah. I think sometimes the expectations of what they're either trying to, I'm sure many mean well, but at the same time, many of them are like, okay, she really can't really like the job, and so they're trying to say if you'll say anything, but you're like, no, I like it. So like aliens, with shifters, contemporary firefighter.
Yeah, exactly. All of the above, all in one story. I got you. Don't worry.
I'm sure, because when I get asked, I'm like, oh, who have you been talking to? And I'll mention in a couple of names and stuff like that. And they're like, don't you get like embarrassed? And I'm like, no, like, but do you want some recommendations? Is that why you're bringing the conversation? Because I can, like, what do you like? And then I start listing and they're like, oh shit. And I'm like, oh yeah, you don't think I'm going to go there? Because I will.
Exactly.
So in the 4 years that you've now been narrating and you've gotten the coaching and stuff like that, what do you think has changed the most or most drastically when it comes to your process compared to when you first started and was being cast and recording versus now?
Oh gosh, so many things. I swear, I feel like I change and evolve every 6 months, which is wonderful because that means I'm growing and learning and figuring out new things and, all of that. But it sucks that I have to do new demos every 6 months. But I think the most significant change within the last year or so, which I think has really, really boosted my hireability, has been trusting this story. I've always said, even when I was younger and doing theater and when I thought I wanted to do film, I always said I wanted to tell the stories that needed to be told. That was always what I said. I wanted to tell the stories and, in whatever form that took. And now that I am, and now that I've got wonderful books where I trust the story, which wasn't always the case when I first started. Now that I do, it's completely transformed the way that I record. I'm able to breathe life into the story as opposed to trying to make the story into something, if that makes any sense. Like when I first started, I was trying to make the story into what I wanted it, as opposed to now trusting the story into becoming something more. So I just elevate it and bring it to life, I guess is the best way. So that's the most significant change that I've had over the last year, for sure.
In doing so, do you find that you're enjoying the whole process more of the narrating, plus also when you're doing the prepping, knowing where the story's kind of leading to and all that fun stuff? Because you're also a reader, so.
Yes, definitely. It has made the process a lot more enjoyable. At first, I guess I was also recording some stuff I didn't really enjoy, which if any narrators listening will know that it's not fun when you're recording something you don't like. But now that I do, and now that I really am figuring out the nuances of each and every story, it just adds more to it. Even if I'm, say, slightly bored with a story, digging deeper and trying to find those moments makes it more interesting, even if my mind starts to wander with it, you know? So yeah, definitely. And being an avid reader myself, I really am able to take from what I listen to on a daily basis from other narrators, because I do listen. It's not, not just reading. I'm listening to anyone and everyone that I can get my hands on to see how they also would say a line and be like, wow, that I would never have said that line that way. And that's an amazing take. And then I can use it the next day, And so I love that. I love when I'm able to do that.
Yeah, no, there's so many things that goes on behind the scenes, and we have no clue because we just get the finished product.
Right.
Completely tied in a bone and like, oh my God, that sounds so good. Oh, she went there. Okay.
Right.
She said that. Oh, kind of a thing.
Yeah. And that takes time and effort on the narrator's part to be able to find those moments, because they're not always super visible. And the ones that are not super visible are the most interesting ones. And one of my coaches is absolutely phenomenal at finding those moments. And I just aspire to one day be like her, that she can find all of those so super nuanced moments where I'm like, I completely missed that. Thank you for pointing it out. But yeah, it's amazing. And it is so much work trying to find all of this stuff. When I, again, talk to people after telling them I'm an audiobook narrator, they're like, so how much work is that? And I'm like, it's a lot. Like 1 hour of finished audio is at a minimum 6 hours of my time or someone else's time that I pay for, and they're just absolutely shocked that it would take that much time. And they're like, well, how many times do you read the story then? I'm like, a couple, a couple times. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's including the prep of finding out, making sure that you have things like accents done. And then after the recording, editing that you may have to do, because I think sometimes we don't realize that you guys are actually doing a lot of the editing yourselves. You're not just giving the complete raw file. And by raw file, I mean, the line is going like, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And the line is going like, you leave that blah, blah, blah in there. And then the production company, I think, is always the assumption, or whoever's doing the editing is going to take all that stuff out. But you guys actually go back, which is part of that punch and roll.
Yeah, the punch and roll process, which I didn't use when I first started. I was like, why would I need to do that? That sounds so dumb. I was so naive. I just kicked myself over and over again because I wasted so much time. I mean, every single time that you have to stop and go back and do that is 5 minutes of your time wasted trying to make sure everything flows together. But yeah, now we're officially the punch and roll team. That happened probably about a year in. I was like, there's got to be a better way. I went back and looked at the punch and roll and I was like, oh, it's not stupid. Okay, never mind. I understand. But it also means that as I'm recording and trying to find those nuanced moments, I'm also editing at the same time. So I'm doing two things while also trying to listen back to myself to make sure that what came out of my mouth was actually how I intended it to come out. Again, not always the case. I have some minor dyslexia, so things that come out of my mouth are not necessarily what's on the page. So then I'm editing on top of that. And it's just, there's a lot that goes on in my little booth over here.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention sometimes now that a lot of you guys are on social media and doing things either behind the scenes, giving us a little bit of a blooper or reading a bit of a book. And now you're editing, narrating, and recording. For social media.
With our pretty faces, which I desperately want to be better at.
Yeah.
It's just,
I think, yeah, I know a lot of times they're like, oh, they have to be on camera. And I'm going, no, they don't. We can just look at the mic. Or, hey, you want to show me the book that you're writing instead? I'll take that. Some of you guys are a little bit more incognito or more on the private side of things. And because, at the end of the day, we're here for your voice. So,
right.
So that's the main thing. But
that's all that matters. Mm-hmm. I could look like a troll in my booth, and it wouldn't really matter as long as my voice sounds good.
Well, if it wasn't for the fact that the booth gets so hot, I'm sure you guys could wear a Tyrannosaurus Rex blow up costume.
I'm sure
we wouldn't care.
That would be a good thing to do. Definitely. I will run that by my next author and tell her or him, I'm going to wear a dinosaur costume. I'll have to make sure it's a book in wintertime so I don't get too hot. It'll help keep me warm for sure.
Yep. Yeah, no, those booths are, one of these days they will invent a way to create an AC.
Silent air.
A silent air of sorts,
Silent air. I am waiting for the day for silent air. Then I'm also in a neighborhood, so I am battling lawnmowers and leaf blowers and weed whackers. And gosh, I just had a day last week where I had 3 different neighbors mowing and they didn't time it at the same time. So as soon as one stopped, I had about 10 minutes and then another one started. And then I had about 10 minutes and then the other one started. And that's like 20 minutes that they're mowing, which thankfully, we're in the middle of the end of July, I guess now. So, lawn mowing isn't taking too long for people, but it's still, 20, 30, 60 minutes out of my day that I've had to stop because my neighbors can't coincide their mowing schedules.
I know, right?
I need to send up like a sign up sheet around.
Sometimes I've wondered if it's just a matter of maybe baking some cookies and knocking on doors saying, hi, I'm a romance, I'm a narrator. I have to record in without mowers and other noises. So, let me know what your schedule looks like, please.
Right. Gosh, maybe I should, especially after that last time. I was like, oh my God. Oh my goodness. I was so over it. It.
I know.
But then the heat on top of that.
Yeah. It's usually one thing or another. And of course, is your booth more a do-it-yourself, a DIY, or do you have one of those brick studios?
One of the fancy ones? No, I am not of the fancy ones yet. I have a modified closet that I am in. And because it's got so much sound insulation, stuff like that, it actually makes it hotter in here than if I didn't have what I need the sound insulation, for sound quality purposes. But then it's like, it traps the heat in. And then my seat is like a leather seat, like a leather desk chair seat that also traps the heat in.
Yes.
It's just one thing after another. And I've got a wall. One of my walls is actually an outside wall that has direct sunlight on it all afternoon.
Dang.
So afternoon sessions don't have a whole ton of clothes, and there are some ice packs involved. And to try and grin and bear it and get through it.
Yeah, I was.
And then if you're reading a spicy scene on top of that, it just gets really warm in here.
Yeah, I have a narrator friend who was in his magic box, as he likes to call it, and I started talking to him afterwards, and he's like, "Hold on a minute, I need to rotate this," and I'm like, "What are you rotating?" And he's like, "The ice packs," and I'm like, "Oh snap, that's right. Okay, it's Upper New York, there it's hot."
Yeah. They're super toasty up there now too.
Yeah. And so now that you've been doing this again for 4 years, are you still finding that those steamy scenes, you're still being like, some of them, I think, I'm sure the people listening are like, oh, do you still get affected? But for me, it's not the, oh, baby, come here, kind of a thing after you get off the, which might be, who knows, but whatever. Yeah. But it's still like, a little bit like, whoa, I just said that out loud.
I guess, I don't know if I sometimes it'll make me giggle if I have to say certain anatomical words that I don't thoroughly enjoy over and over again. When I come to those, I have to stop and I'll just do a little giggle, because authors are very creative with what they will call body parts. And so sometimes those will catch me up, but certain lines or anything, I think those are okay. Maybe after a certain scene, I was like, oh, well, that was a good one. Okay. Maybe we should get up and walk around a bit. That was a good one. But I don't know if I get like embarrassed anymore or anything like that. Cause it's kind of, my job now. And I think I've gone as far as one can go with certain scenes. I haven't done too many that are trigger warning label worthy, but beyond that, I don't really know. I think I've pushed the boundary for myself anyway. But I'm not a person that gets embarrassed easily. I've just never been that kind of person. Everyone does it. Everyone listens to it. Like as long as I can make it enjoyable for someone else, that's what matters to me. I guess it's mostly just like the creative names that catch me up. Those are definitely the ones.
the flower and the petals and
the petals, the stroking of the petals for sure. That one, I'm like, that was a choice. Yep.
yeah. Some of the euphemisms that they get there, I'm going, okay, we went there. All right.
And then there's some that are just like, I don't want to say, balls to the wall, but that's essentially what it is. Just like go for it, And I'm like, good on you.
Yeah.
You're just going right at it.
That's actually funny enough too. I think that when it comes down to the male anatomy, they'll go straight into and they have no problems going, cock, penis, dick, straight to what it is. But for us, they have to get creative or, and I'm like,
right. Yeah.
Vagina, it's okay.
Right. It's an anatomy. I guess, I don't know. I guess people don't want to listen to that kind of thing, which I don't know. Like it is what it is. Like half the population has one.
Yeah, exactly. The other half wants it. I mean, whatever.
Right.
So yeah. No, it's always funny how they do that. And I'm going, sometimes when I pick up a book, I'm going, and I wonder what we're going to go into today.
Right.
And as far as, what will they be calling it now?
And then as soon as they choose one where they're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And then they run with it for the rest of the book. And I'm like, I have to say this phrase multiple times now. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you deal with, because it happens in a lot with the romance books, the whole concept of like, and he growls,
you know, I actually don't really have any problem with those kinds of, I don't know what they're called. I guess intonation. I'm having a brain fart on what the word would be, but yeah, I don't really have a problem with any of those. I try my hardest. Like if it's, a dialogue line that I have to say to add as much of a growliness to it or a whatever. Because for some reason I can always imagine what those look like. And I didn't realize until recently that other people didn't know what those were, like, especially ones where like his lips skimmed back or something. I always knew what that meant. It's like he was baring his fangs or something like that, And then I saw a video, especially like on TikTok, where they were like, what does this mean? And I'm like, but it means he pulled his, like, have you never seen someone do that? They just like pull their lips back. But yeah, the growly one, at least I've never had to like actually growl. And I don't know if I would do that because that would, be very suspect for the vocal cords. But because like right now I am listening to A Discovery of Witches, the second book in it. And I've watched the TV show before and I didn't realize how growly he was. And because he's not as growly I'm like, maybe she says it in the books and I just didn't pick up on it as much than when I was watching the TV show and he's literally in there going, and like growling.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I've never seen that before. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. It takes a whole new level of growling, but
yeah. But see, that's from a P&R perspective. They're trying to kind of showcase and have the viewers see more of the animalistic side of things,
right?
Of what animals do. But also in contemporary romance, and he growled mine,
right.
and things like that. And so when I hear growl, I'm going, arr. Arr,
Arr, like a pirate,
like, or, like, and I'm like, okay, how would I make this sound sexy? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's
the rumbly. It's the rumbliness. You just got to give it some rumbly edginess to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's that like like mine. I think that's what, obviously not like that, but yeah, there's been a couple of TikToks that I'm going, oh, okay, that makes a point. That makes it, like I get it. But I'm also that too because it's been more popular now as of late, that descriptive in the the voice, and then he growled or stuff like that to her. And when it first came up, I'm going, so he's like snuggling up to her, kissing her ear, and she goes like, arr. I don't know.
You were going with that. Just see it. I remember he's snuggling up.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I think it's just one of those, they're trying to use it as a descriptive in the voice, and it just kind of sounds like because I sometimes have issues describing there's a baritone or there's a gruffness to it, and things. I think that's what they mean when they want to say growl. There's like a bit of that gravelly.
Yeah, but the gruff, grumbly edge to it a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit rougher and maybe not all the way voiced and stuff like that. But that's how I always take it. And I actually do like it when authors use that, because it helps direct me. It's like it takes the acting choice off of me. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I know how to say that line now. Like, I don't have to come up with a way to say this to try and match whatever the author said, because they put it right there. They told me how they wanted it said, which is nice. But I mean, I also don't mind when the author says, if there's a bunch of dialogue and they say said over and over and over again. I sometimes feel like authors try so hard to change it up that they change it up too much. As he intoned this way and he voiced this way. And I'm like, just say said. It's fine. I promise you. I will run over it and it'll be okay. And we'll move on.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's that they're not really clear on the tone of the scene, maybe. That they're like, they haven't set it up where we obviously know he's upset, so he's not going to laugh it out. He's not going to giggle at that line. He's going to be upset. And it's just that, and then also the type of person, like you were mentioning, Discovery of Witches, when he got mad, he did growl on the show. Did growl.
Yeah, he growled a lot on the show, and he is the only person I have seen convincingly growl on film. He's the only person I've watched a lot of things. I watched, what was that? Oh gosh, there was when I was younger, it was like a wolf something or other, and they tried to growl a lot in that, and I was like, that doesn't work for me. I don't like that. But then Matthew Royden or Matthew de Claremont will growl on screen, and I'm like, yes, sir. I like that. That works for me.
That does, yeah. So I love that book in audio, and the narrator does a fantastic job on the distinctions between the characters, that many times I'm like, wow, that's still just one person. And and thank God, because those books are so well written, but they take place over different times,
so much time, so many different places and people, and I can't even imagine what sort of like character prep work she had to do for that. I'm like, she must have had pages and pages of things, like the amount of, I mean, it's got to be over 300 characters per book. I'm like, I can't even imagine trying to keep track of all of those people in one book. I mean, I have done it, actually. I'll say that, but it's rough.
Yeah, it is.
Like, who is this person again? How do they sound? Like, what do they do?
And someone, because there's time travel, they may have just been he just walked into the kitchen, looked up and smiled and nodded and walked away. And, and then the next couple of chapters, they're back in time. And now all of a sudden he has all the screen time, and you're going, oh yeah, there's a lot more to
little do you know that you have to do 15th century, whatever.
Yeah. But I'm really glad that I listened to it, because of the fact that there's so many different, languages, as far as like they have the French words and stuff like that. I would have been reading it and I would have been like, and then they went to blah 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 blah.
Yeah, sometimes that's what I feel like when I'm trying to record a book with a bunch of names in it too. I look at it, go blah 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 blah, and I wish that's how I could record it.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's hilarious. But I mean, when it comes down to, they had so much accent work. And the narrator for that book is just so talented. But you guys all have this thing where, when you guys get an accent, and now you kind of become known for it, right? Because you're like, damn, that was so good. It's just like, wow. It's like Megan when she does fill in the blank. Right. And but what is an accent that you love to perform, that you're like, yes, I get to pull out the fill in the blank?
I have two.
Mhm.
I have my French accent and my Scottish. Both of
Oh.
those I adore doing. I think they sound the best in my voice, which also helps. But I've got a lot that are like almost there, but they're not all the way absolutely perfect. And so I'm just too much of a perfectionist. I'm like, no, I can't use that one yet. It's not perfect yet. And I'm just like, just use it. Just use it. You're fine. But the two that I love the most are my French and my Scottish for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are
You are
always
not going to
fun.
ask me to say anything, are you?
I would never. No, no, no. It's funny too, because depending on who I'm talking to, I don't ever like to put you guys on the spot, because I know that sometimes there is a bit of a process where you may have to like go and start. If you know that you're going to be doing that scene that's British, you start talking with a British accent, and you start doing the warm-ups and this and that. So I would never, but some of y'all will just bust out with
out with it.
Yeah. And they're like, and I like the Irish accents, and they just start talking with the accent. I'm going, keep talking.
keep talking. Well, my problem, I totally would. I just need something to read. I have a hard time. Like if you ask me to just, improving it, I've never been super great at improv. So like the improving of the dialogue, I think is what would catch me up more. So, but yes, those two are my favorite.
See, French to me, it can be such a, I don't want to say difficult, but sometimes it can be such a caricature, because you automatically go to, the Dust Buster in, Beauty and the Beast, and a bit of Lumiere, and or Pepe Le Pew, and things
all
like
of those,
that.
that go too far. Which I think they have their time and place depending on the type of story. If you've got a character that's real snooty and real uppity, and they're French, and they're all all of that, and blah blah blah, and maybe Marie Antoinette would have something closer to that. If you really play it up, it could add to the character work of it. But listening to an entire book with that kind of heavily accented would get a little stressful after a while.
It's just not sexy listening to the chef from The Little Mermaid. Le croissant, la croissant.
Yeah, right.
Oh, the folds, no, stop.
Stop. Yeah. But I listened to another book. Oh gosh, what was the name of that book? And it was so wonderful. It was set in World War II. That's one of the genres I love to listen to. And it was in occupied France when Germany was there, and it was the liberation of one of the French towns. And the narrator was American, and she was doing all of these French accents. And it was just, you could tell every single character and what sort of person they were, depending upon how she accented things. And it's so magical listening to something like that when it's done so well. And you can really tell all of those different things and the characters and I just love it. I love it so much. And I hope that people feel that way when they listen to me, but that is what I aspire to be.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that is a lot of times from the listener perspective, because even though like I love a Scottish accent, but I also know that I probably wouldn't understand a quarter or anything of if I was speaking to a full-blooded Scot. Or if I was
like going over to Glasgow now, like you'd probably be like, I'm sorry, sir, what?
come again? And I mean, like, can you repeat it, not the other way?
I swear we're both English, but I do not understand what's happening.
Same thing with the Irish, and it's just funny, and even the British, depending on which dialect you're getting.
Right.
And so that's where the importance of a little is more than enough, where you just kind of provide that bit of the hints.
Right.
And that totally works. I will say that in the 10 plus years that I've been listening to audiobooks and I've been in this world of romance, for me, the narrator that has completely nailed it. Like if there was an award for best French accent, John Hartley would get it. And he's British. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, his French is the best out there. So if anybody's ever looking for a French accent male, John Hartley
If you
is
need
your
help with
guy.
practicing your French, we recommend.
Yes. No, he did a book with TJ London, and it's a historical fiction with elements of romance. And so that's what a lot of the romance listeners are like, is it romance? I'm like, there's romance in it, but it's the work is so beautifully done that you end up saying, you just listen to it. And he was doing two brothers that are the bad guys kind of thing. And my God, the accent work. And it's like, dude, I know you're British. Now I'm second guessing myself. I maybe French.
Right.
So
right.
yeah.
You have to go back and like double check, like where are you from?
Yeah. John's ears are probably burning.
Probably.
Love you, John. Yeah. But that's one of those things where when you find someone that can do such an accent perfectly as that, and then you're like trying to pick somebody else up, that's where I always say sometimes less is more.
Right.
You don't want to, I just want to know that you can make me believe that it's French. Yeah.
Add the sprinkle to it.
Yeah,
Sprinkle of the flavor.
The croissant, those little the sort of words and stuff like that. But yeah, otherwise, no, it's okay. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I know the character. I sometimes wonder. No, I don't wonder anymore. I know the authors do this shit when they know who they're working with.
Oh yeah,
it's almost like they're testing the narrator, going, see if they're gonna bust out with the whole hold my beer.
See what they can do now.
Yeah. And I've talked to some of them, and then they're like start giggling. I'm like, what did you do?
They're like, he. I know what I did. Just whipped out one character.
Yeah.
Let's see if they're prepared.
Oh yeah. Whether it's that or it's a bit of a tongue twister in some of the words. And I'm like,
God, pocketed it. Like Jesus.
There's certain words that, we fumble in normal conversation. I can only imagine you guys in the booth.
Oh God. And it's even worse. I don't want to say it's like worse for me, but it feels worse for me sometimes with the minor dyslexia that I have, because I'll just trip over words that normal people are totally fine with, because my brain has decided that, I can't think of something now, but like I'll flip words around. I'm really good at like, I did it today. Actually, I like to switch words that have the same first letter and the same meaning. So if you used murmured and muttered a couple lines apart, most likely they are going to be flipped and not set in the correct place, because it's just, that's what my brain decides to do. And then my brain will know that I've said it wrong. So then it'll trip me up on something else. And so I'll end up stumbling and be like, okay, why did I stumble? There was not a hard word there. And I'll go back and listen and be like, oh, because you said the wrong thing. That's why. That's why you were tripping up.
Yeah, no, it's funny how the brain works and tries to really fuck with you.
Yes.
And whether it's that or I always say things like, I'm going to go brush my face and wash my teeth.
All the time.
So I'll flip that. And same thing, that this a little bit of I've never been diagnosed with dyslexia, but I do flip numbers. And so I have to constantly, when I'm saying them out loud, when someone's giving me a phone number for something, I reiterate it. But then again, I've written it down. I've said it correctly.
Yeah.
And I wrote it wrong. And I'm going, fuck me.
Yes. All of the time. All of the time.
All the time. So
it's hard. And like, especially being in this kind of industry too, it's not really talked about how there are certain people within this community that have this, learning problem. And of course, it wasn't really that big of an issue outside of doing audiobooks. And of course, I chose to do the one thing where I would be affected by it with, but like, I have to do so much to my script, formatting wise, to my script, to make sure that I am doing everything possible. Like I bump up, this is so embarrassing, but I bump up the type, like the font size for all of my scripts to like 26 to 30, which is huge. And then I change the page color, because black on pink is a little bit better than black on white. For some reason, that also messes with my brain. And then it has to be a certain kind of font, like Times New Roman. No, that's a no-go. My brain does not like that font. Or I have to, I shouldn't say, I do all of these things. And then spacing in between all of them and making sure that indents are correct so I can see where paragraphs are and, all of these things. And so those are all of the things that I've learned over the years to be able to do to try and mitigate it. And hopefully by telling you, I can help someone else who's listening can go, oh, okay, there's some other options. Yeah. And it's not just me. You're not alone. I promise. There are lots of us out there and we're doing it. We're making it.
Yep. I will tell you, I believe it was Scott Brick that's mentioned about the increasing the font sizes, Jim Francioni's as well. I also have a narrator friend that I know that even in my emails, I need to change the font because it does not work for him. The traditional, Roman times, it does not. It's at first I was like, what the fuck do you mean you don't like it? I was like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like, it's Google. So I literally have to type up my emails, change the fonts, copy paste it, because that's what a true friend does after you give them grief.
Such a good friend.
After you give them grief, yes, you realize that it's not them being an asshole. That's just how their brain works. And that's okay.
Well, if you want to get the information imparted, then
he's
going to miss the stuff. So
yeah, exactly. And I'm like, what's your excuse now, boy?
yeah.
But it's true. But I think also, even from a listener's perspective, a lot of people are truly grateful for you guys doing the audiobooks and the authors that are providing their stories in audio, because they would not have been otherwise able to read the story because of things like dyslexia.
Yeah. The people that have it a lot worse than me, I'm sure. Like my uncle was so bad. He was illiterate for a very long time and they didn't know because he just kind of sort of skated by, and it wasn't a time when he could skate by, but I mean, it was so bad. He was illiterate up to like 3rd or 4th grade or something like that because he just, he had such bad dyslexia. And back in that time, if he had dyslexia, he would be put into classes that he was not meant to be in, like a form of a special ed type class, but it's not, that kind of thing. And it's not that he just couldn't read. The words swam for him. And I'm so glad to be able to tell those stories for people who wouldn't be able to read it otherwise. It's just one of the many things that makes me grateful for the job that I have.
Yeah, I always try to advocate, especially for our libraries, to have the romance books in there, because I'll go in there and peruse I try to do that at least once a month and see who are the popular authors that are still not at my library, and I will add them, make the request, and because I work HR at the day job, I do know the words.
The words to be able to move things along. Yeah,
just a lot quicker. Yeah, assist with individuals that are hard of reading, I have disabilities, are not able to, blah, 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 kind of a thing. And damn, those books get put on there quickly. But I am very fortunate. I know not all libraries have that function because it is still buying the licenses.
Right.
But yeah, it's really great to be able to have that. Many of us just take it for granted because we're like, do I eyeball read it or do I listen to it? And people don't sometimes realize that
don't
this
always
is
have
the
that
only option. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wish you needed to come to my library. They have nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, a lot of
I'm like, what is this?
A lot of individuals don't know that you can actually, become a member of a different library system that is not where you live.
Oh,
yeah.
Maybe I need to do that then.
So I know that a lot of libraries, especially the bigger metropolitan ones, so I think like New York is one of them, that has a library system where for almost like a subscription for and that just covers the taxes I think that they have to do for certain things. I don't know how all that works considering it's all electronic, but hell, $25 gets me access for free books. I am there. Especially legally free books. Hell yeah. Because that's to me what's the most important thing.
Legally free books.
Yes, thank you. Because let me clarify, okay? None of this buying and returning shit. No, it's called the fucking library, people. Anyways, yeah. And for those individuals that might live in a smaller town or a bit more of a conservative town, you just have to kind of look to see, or just ask the question on your social media. And there's more than many of us that will be happy to give you the list of libraries that will allow you to subscribe to their system. And just for a small fee, sometimes I think the most I've seen has been like $25 for the year. And and then boom, there you go. And not only is it just ebooks, but a lot of them have audiobooks. So for those individuals that have thought about, getting into audio, but have not, because it's so damn expensive. There's a reason for that, but also the libraries have them. And again, for free and legally
legally for free.
And that way you can kind of try things out and kind of see if that's your cup of tea. But yeah, definitely check it out. If you have any questions at all, always, shoot me an email or DM social media. Hey Viv, which library was that? Yeah, I'll tell you. I hook a girl up. I hook you guys up. No worries.
Yeah.
And then you are going to be in Chicago in September for the Allure event. So I'm so excited.
So excited. Yes. It's my first really big event like this, actually, because right when I started, I didn't really feel comfortable going to these big kind of events. When I first started, I was like, I'm not doing enough for that, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as I felt comfortable to be able to do that, what happened? COVID hit. So then I was like, and honestly, there's nothing worse to me than trying to do a Zoom conference. I just, I tried so hard, but I would much rather be in person and can like see someone's face as opposed to just like sitting there in front of a camera, trying to smile, like, don't pick my nose, like, that kind of thing, because you never know who's watching. Yeah. So yes, I'm very excited to be there in September.
Yeah. So will this be your first event going as a signing narrator?
Yes, it will. It will. I don't know what to expect. I'm kind of nervous, if we're being honest, but yes, I am very excited. First time going there. And then I'll be at the ball and I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to wear. It has been such a thing. The last 2 times I've had to go to fancy events, they were weddings for my friends and I was bridesmaid. So I didn't even have to choose that. So I don't know what to wear.
Oh goodness. Yeah, I think the major thing for the gala, for those that may not know, Allure is the first and only right now event out there that is solely focused on audiobooks. And so the authors that are signing and the narrators that are going to be there have all had an audiobook already in production or about to get it published or in the works. And it's the first time. Other events have started to realize that, oh yeah, there's a fandom here. Perhaps we should include them.
Perhaps we should include the narrators. I mean, sometimes I will choose a book to listen to solely because I know the narrator and I like them. I'm like, I don't really care what the story is. I just know I like the narrator, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. I've done that too. And I've discovered so many great authors. And then the other way around too, when I know that's an author that's really, really good, I'm going, who are you? Who are you trying to?
Who are you?
You're going to try this. Okay, let's go. Tell me,
right.
kind of thing. But Allure is specifically just for audiobooks. And it's, and then there's 2 parties, the Fire and Ice Gala, which is going to be lovely themed, and the official thing, which they were even going to have a red carpet. Which I'm hosting.
Oh, yay. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
I've so been watching the different shows that have red carpets and even the audience.
To know what to do. Yeah.
Just to kind of, because I will never be that person that busts out. So who are you wearing?
I am wearing Goodwill.
Yeah. This is from Shein. Vintage mother of grandmother pearls and
Yep.
Post-pandemic shoes.
Exactly.
So
it's going to be like Amazon.
Yeah, I know, right?
Amazon sponsored the outfit today.
Yeah, today, yeah, exactly. Today our sponsor is Amazon. Did you know that you could also try before you buy?
Amazon better sponsor us now is
right?
What should happen since we just gave them a huge plug for sure.
Yeah, no, but it's going to be a fun thing. But I also had to come up with a couple of questions to ask you guys, but also nothing that's going to be like deers caught in the headlights,
right?
Concept
or something that's going to make us talk for like 25 minutes. Cause I know that you've got like a ton of people to get through as well.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sure someone will bust out with Meg, move your ass.
I'm like, oh, sorry, talk too long. Okay, bye.
Yeah, and then the other events, the Prohibition, which some people are dressing up for, some others are just kind of going a little bit like in between. And there's a bunch of workshops and panels of sorts for the authors and the narrators that are also going to be very good, including a marketing one, which I think needs to be discussed more. And,
for sure.
And, as far as how to market the audiobooks, but there's going to be so many fans and listeners on there that I know that you said you were nervous.
Yeah.
Just make sure you bring your cheat sheet of the books that you've recorded prior to you going and more or less what has been released. And because you're going to get that question. So what can I get next? And again, deers in the headlights.
I have never narrated anything ever. That's what my brain will do.
You know, the book with the blue guy that's an alien
with the people and
and the double appendages and who also happens to be a billionaire, because there's some authors that love to throw every fucking trope in there.
Pretty sure I narrated that one.
Right.
Pretty sure I did an alien prince one, so I think I've got both covered. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're going to get a lot of stuff to sign. So maybe bring some Sharpies.
Oh, yeah. Gotta get good Sharpies. Maybe get some like colored Sharpies to like stand out so it's not black.
Yeah. Well, in some cases you'll want the black, but other cases they'll bring you stuff like a penis-shaped pillow.
Oh,
was one that I saw at one convention. Of course, there's a bunch of Kindle covers. Deborah Anastasia had something going on. I think it was like a running joke in her reader group. So they had maxi pads that they were bringing to her to sign.
I will not.
Deborah, you're going to have to explain this to me one of these days, because I saw that and I'm going, what the fuck?
What is happening?
what is happening? And she's laughing and penis-shaped pillows, all sorts of fun things. So yeah.
So just a variety, some fabric pens also maybe.
If you can, that's for sure. Permanent pens tend to work really great on fabrics anyway. So.
Okay, good. Yeah. So just a variety pack. Got it. Perfect.
Yeah. And of course, just obviously the throat lozenge and stuff like that, because they will be talking, of course.
Yes. Lots of talking involved. All day. All day talking. And all night talking. Yeah,
but also you have the fans, and so one convention. Oh my god, I don't think she's going to be in this one, but there was one that became known as the Screamer, and every single time that she met up with an author that was on her list, you literally heard her across the entire fucking space, and it was like insert yell, like squeak. Oh my god, it's so and so, and I'm like, oh god. At first, I'm like, is everybody okay? But then she did it again, and I'm like, oh, I'm seeing a pattern.
Seeing the pattern of the screaming. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I love the energy. Maybe the volume needs to be brought down a smidgen.
A little bit, yeah.
Just a smidgen for like large group gatherings that we haven't done for a couple of years.
Thank you. I think that's going to be the biggest point, is that a lot of us have not peopled in a long time, and you all have not peopled a long time.
Not peopled.
Yeah.
Me and my little booth for the last couple of years.
Yeah. I should talk to the organizer and say, do you guys have some like safety booths or something like that the narrators can kind of crawl into for those moments? Just some quiet time.
Quiet corner for the narrators. I would like to sponsor the quiet corner for the narrators.
The introverts, myself included, would appreciate that.
Yep, that's me. That is very much me.
Yeah, but it's going to be so much fun. They have a fun lineup, and so many new authors and narrators that I haven't even heard of, but have been having a great time catching up on episodes for the event, as well as just kind of catching up on, because I think a lot of us do that when we go to an event. We're like, okay, who haven't we read? And bam, buys the book and listens to it, kind of thing. So I'm doing that. Yeah.
All of September will be a flash through, like, how many can I listen to and read
I know,
before I go to the event?
I know. I had a friend that's like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I haven't read anything yet. And I'm going to be like, I don't know if I'm going to know it. I go, just listen to the episodes. Consider those cliff notes. Okay.
Cliff note.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
definitely. For sure. I love your podcast, by the way. I know I didn't say it before. I love it. I have listened to it, and I just absolutely love it. You ask such great questions, and you make people such at ease. So it's wonderful.
Thank
Sometimes
you.
people can get very stilted with podcasts and stuff like that. And you're like, what am I listening to? But yours are never like that. And I love it.
Yeah. I try to keep it as structured chaos, because I do have my questions in front of me, but I also know that we haven't even touched half of the ones that I have in here, but you mentioned them in one aspect or another.
Okay, good.
So I'm not going to ask you again about one thing when you've already kind of, mentioned it. Yeah, exactly. And then we obviously go off on, the screaming people or the penis-shaped pillow. But it's still at the same time, we're talking about, I'm not kidding, there is one. And
I will be on the lookout for it. You best believe I will be on the lookout for it. And I will hand it to you on the red carpet. Be like, look what I brought you. Signed by me just for you.
Oh my goodness. That's going to be like, I'm putting that on my bed. And then when I do podcasts, I'll bring it into the office with me.
It'll be your back support. It'll be nice.
Perfect. So what's that behind? It's just a penis. Goodness. Oh God. Yeah, we're gonna have fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
In our quiet corner.
Yeah, if you see two girls like giggling and stuff like that, in the corner or something, that's just us. Because come say hi. Come say hi. Yeah, or I'm sure someone's going to bust out with, "Hey, where's the penis?"
Yeah, exactly. I'll just run down the red carpet with it. Like, what did I got?
The pillow penis. Oh, okay. Thank you. I know some of the guys that are going, they'll bust out with something, I'm sure.
I'm sure they probably will. They can't help themselves.
No,
they can't, especially if they're in this industry as well, doing romance novels. Yeah, no, they just would not be able to help themselves.
No, they wouldn't. That's what I'm like, specify. Love you guys. Yep. So aside from us giggling like schoolgirls here and having fun, I want to get to know you a little bit better. And so this is also
you don't know me enough by now. Are you sure?
I know I do, but this is also where it's a different kind of getting to know you in the sense of how good is she going to come up with this part where it's the two truths and a lie.
Right. I've tried to trip you up. I've tried really hard. I have put so much thought into it. I've tested it out on people. I will be honest.
See, and here's the funny part too, is that a lot of people like really would have a hard time coming up with it. And at the end of the day, the ones that really trip you up are the ones that have some truth to it, but just something is different.
You learned my secret. That's exactly what I did.
Well, but I see the getting to know you part is to figure that part out.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to go now and you're going to tell us 3 things about you, of which 2 are true and 1's a lie. And we got to figure one, which one's that. So what are your 3 things?
Okay. So my first one is that I road tripped across the entire country and back by myself at 22. My second thing is that I have 4 dogs. Their names are Karma, Charlie, Rocky, and Sally. And my third thing is that I have weirdly small thumbs.
Girl.
I told you, I thought about it really hard.
She did. Because this is where the trippiness comes into play. She could possibly have the 4 dogs and not one of those be their names, or all of the same names except for the one, and then that becomes a lie.
Right.
Yeah. And it could not be her thumbs that are oddly small. It could be her pinky. All right, Vivi. Okay. Or road trip by yourself at 22. It could have been at 23.
Okay. Yeah, that possibly. Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. All those possibilities. So I want to say, the road trip is a lie.
No.
See?
I know. No, I only have 2 dogs actually. So only Karma and Charlie are my dogs. Rocky and Sally are dogs that I have taken care of consistently over the past 4 years. So yeah. So yes, I did road trip across the country by myself at 22. I took about 4 weeks and went south and took 10 all the way over, went all the way through Texas and up California, and then came back around. So I missed the Northeast, but I did the Southwest and Midwest essentially. So, yeah. And then I do have weirdly small thumbs. I didn't know what to call them. I call them really my midget thumbs, but I didn't know if that was appropriate.
No.
So I will show you my thumbs in September.
Okay. See, I should have gone with the dog.
You had it. You were thinking about it at first.
I was. Yeah. This is where I'm still learning to follow my gut instincts.
Right. Your gut was to go with that one. Yep. You actually said it. You were like, the names could be wrong. I was like, well,
yeah.
Don't make any noise.
True. Yep. No. Well, that was fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. I worked really hard on it. I will be honest with you. I tried it on like 3 or 4 people. So.
Oh goodness. Yeah. I mean, you could have easily have thrown something in there. Like, I have never narrated a romance in which fill in the blank.
Right. Right.
So many puzzles. That's why I swear it's fun for me, but also just the psychology of it all. It's like how much time they may or may not have spent on it, but also how the thinking process is of like, there was one guest that did basically the same, quite the like reasons or whatever the things, but they only changed one aspect of it. So it was either like they have never traveled to, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I was like, damn.
Oh, so it's like they never traveled to Spain. They never traveled to France.
Yes.
They never traveled to England.
Yeah.
And then you have to choose and you're like,
I know. And I'm like, not only that, but I mean, pretty simple, right?
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, devious.
Well, you also don't learn too much about them when you do it that way. And the intention was to learn about people. Yeah. And so I think you've learned pretty major things about me at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Especially the small thumbs. So that is the most important bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm impressed at the whole traveling, road trip at 22. So,
well, I guess so. Yeah. It really doesn't ever feel like that big a deal to me. It was just something that I did. I got out of a really bad breakup and I was like, I need to find myself again. I need to figure out who I am out of this really bad situation. And I did. I found myself. I went camping. I visited cities. I visited national parks. I figured out what I loved and what I didn't. And on the West Coast, it was very strange for me to see the sun setting over the water after living on the East Coast for so many years, knowing that the sun rises over the water. So my brain was like, wow, I couldn't, it just was not comprehending.
Not compute.
For me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have yet to go over to the West Coast. I have a friend that lives in Oregon that's been like, you have to come. I'm like, I'm
so
trying. It is.
I loved Oregon. Make sure you figure out, timing wise of when to go, because they do get snow very late into the season. I took my trip at the beginning of April. So I got out to the West Coast around, because I was taking my time and whatever. I got out to the West Coast around the end of May, beginning of June, and I went to Crater Lake in Oregon. And at the top of Crater Lake, they still had 12 feet of shoveled snow on either side of the road. I was like, it's June. Why is there snow? What? I don't understand why there is snow right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So later in the summer, it's a good time.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah. And my friend that's out there, she's outdoorsy too. So she's going to bust out with wanting to climb mountains and be in the woods. I do
like the outdoorsy things, which is like what Oregon is known for.
Yes. Yes. I am the girl that would just like to, can you guys, okay, I'll wait for you here while I'm reading the book. I like the outdoors, but it's just no.
Or what you do is you put on an audiobook and you go hiking, so you can get the best of both worlds of listening to the book and the hiking.
Yeah, it's gotta be a interesting book, but at the same time, not anything that will make me want to stop,
right?
Because you're focused on a particular scene. So no, it's like, what? Oh, look, cliff drop. Yay. Must keep going.
Yeah. So choose our books wisely.
Yes. I'll definitely be calling you.
Yeah.
When I make that trip beforehand to just kind of get a list.
Where to go, what to listen to.
Yeah, kind of exactly. Yep. Perfect. So before we go, why don't you tell us what you're currently working on, what's coming up next for you that you can share?
Sure. So I've got a couple different things that I am working on and or coming up with the next couple months. The most recent one that will be out probably, hopefully, depending upon how slow things are released. It's called Shadows of Fury. It's part of the Shadow Realm series, and it's book 4 in the series by Brenda K. Davies, and I absolutely love it. It's a fantasy romance, and it's just the story and the plot are amazing and wonderful. And it's not getting nearly enough attention that I think it deserves. It's just, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a great book. There's, werewolves and fae and vampires and all of the things, and the realms are being threatened, and the romance is spot on, if I do say so myself. So that's one that's coming out. I've got 2 historical fictions coming out within the next couple of months, Island of Gold and Sea of Shadows by Amy Maroney, both of which are set in the Greek Isles in the 1500s. So those are a little bit different, a very big challenge with all of the accents like we were talking about. So I'm super excited for those to come out. And then the last couple are the part of the Whistling Island series by Julia Clemens. Those are going to be a little bit later, probably into October, that are coming out with Podium Audio. So I am very, very excited about all of the books I got coming out. Got some good stuff.
Yeah, they sound great. You had me at shifters and werewolves and oh my.
Yeah. All of those have at least a little bit of romance in them as well. They may not be super romancy, but
no, that's fine.
The first one is for sure, but the other 2 are a little bit romance light. But.
No, it's funny too when it comes down to the fantasy of it, and the urban fantasy. Usually the heroine is the main character, and there may or may not be some romantic elements to it, but usually the whole aspect of that romance develops over the whole series, and that's usually like 4 or 5 books, or more, depending on the book.
Commitment.
Yeah. Hey, it is a one that I am fine with doing so long as the book and the series are good. Yeah. And I don't speed up my audio. So
neither do I.
Yeah.
I can't do it. My brain doesn't work that way. It just starts sounding like, and I know it works for some people, but
yeah,
my brain. Nope.
For me, there was one time I did it just because the story I was not jiving with it, and I couldn't. But it got to the point where I literally had to question myself, and is that the way the narrator actually sounds? Because it's not I've been hearing how he's so damn good, and I'm going, that is not sexy.
Right. And then you remember that you've sped things up, and of course it's not.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I quickly learned. I'm like, nope, that is definitely not my cup of jam. That one time I tried, I'm like, can't do it, Captain.
No. I've actually had to slow people down, which I'm sure the people that speed up their listening are like, you do what? But I've had to slow a couple of narrators down. I was like, I know that they sound good. They're speaking real fast for me. So I want to be able to understand what is happening in the book. And so I had to slow it down, which then also has its own host of problems. Because then you're like, really, did you extend out like that on purpose? And then I'm like, oh, no, they didn't. That was just me slowing it down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always like when they're like, oh, I've read like 7 books this week. And I'm going, sorry to be a Debbie Downer, but are you speeding it up? Yeah. Right. Okay, then bye.
Yeah. Like, good for you. I'm so glad that you love to consume them, and you're consuming that many of them. I so happy for you. My brain needs a little bit more time. That's just, maybe it's like an auditory processing disorder or something where.
Yeah, I often wondered. Yeah, and there's some that the listeners are always raving about the narrator and their performance and the tones of the voices, but I'm also going, but you sped it up. So how, you know what I mean? Like,
that was my question.
Yeah. Like, how are you catching all that? So it's always like one of those, like, I kind of like, maybe I'll kind of get a couple of them in the room at a lore and say, okay,
how does this really work?
How does this really work? Because this is what I'm finding when I'm doing it, and it ain't working for this girl. So explain yourself.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Because I'm intrigued, but at the same time I'm going, it can't possibly be that, you know what I mean? So, but I digress.
Yeah, it's funny how different brains work.
And I think that's what must be it. They're just something in the auditories that for them it works, and so they can still hear it, where I am going, chipmunk.
Yeah. I mean, if someone speaks at me too fast, I'm like, huh? What? What do you need? It takes like 2 minutes before it actually sinks in. Oh, you needed that. Oh, okay. Sounds good. Got it.
Yeah. I am looking forward to the books that you're coming out, especially that Shadow of Fear. I'm going to look into that one. I do love a good shifter and, kind of PNR worlds. I need to get back into one of them.
She's it's an unfinished series, and she's continuing on. I am recording book 5 soon too, probably in the next couple months, and then she's already got book 6 planned for 2023. So it continues on, and the romance starts in book 1 and continues on through it. So
good, yeah.
add all things together. It's really good. It's so good. I love it.
Yeah.
All of
Awesome.
her books I absolutely love. She's an amazing author. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Meg, for taking the time to hang out with me today. It's been so much fun.
Welcome. This has been so much fun. I am so glad I was able to hang out with you.
Yeah, and I'll get to do it again in person in September at Allure. So I'm excited. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I will be including all of your social media and information so people can go and follow. And
Perfect.
Yeah, and that will be over on the post for this episode at Viviana, Enchantress of Books. So if you're not following, you should. Because why not? Hello.
I know.
Sounds awesome. She's awesome. We're just saying. But anyways, everyone, thanks again for listening. And until next time, happy listenings.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. Special thanks to Nixley Zenner, Carol Liebner, Brittany Robinette Leiter, Michelle Bastard,
Brandy Schmidt, April Branson.
The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobookloving. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.